The Battle of Gaugamela was one of the huge battles of antiquity. Alexander the Great was 23 years old at the time. Alexander had inherited a kingdom and he built an empire. But everything was hinging on this one battle, the Battle of Gaugamela. He had pursued Darius across the east and had finally caught up to his army at Gaugamela. He was preparing for the battle. Darius and his army were expecting a night attack. And so each night, the guards, the sentries, they'd be tired, they'd be stressed out, they would be awaiting the attack of Alexander and the Macedonians. Alexander's own generals advised him, let's attack at night. And Alexander said, no, I don't want the excuse of a night battle to rob me of the glory of this victory. Alexander had been waiting for this his whole, albeit yet short life. Alexander, the night before the actual battle, went to sleep. And he was able to sleep soundly. Now you would think a lot of times a general before a huge battle would not be able to reconcile rest. He'd be up talking to generals, talking to aides, trying to get as much information, get everything prepared for the next day. And that was not the case of Alexander. He slept so soundly. They even say that the next day his aide Parmenio came to wake him up and he had to shake him, call out his name 3 times because Alexander was sleeping so soundly. Now his soldiers took this as a sign of great confidence, and this filled them as well with a great pride and with great confidence, and they went on to rout Darius and his army in the battle. I want to talk to you today about the power of sleep. St. Joseph is sometimes referred to as the terror of demons. He is somebody who the devil fears, and this comes especially when Joseph sleeps. Pope Francis recently wrote a message for the World Day of Vocations, and he talks about the dreams of St. Joseph. And there are 4 dreams recorded in the Gospel. And each time that there's one of these huge crisis moments, well, Joseph goes to sleep. And in that sleep, God gives him clarity for the mission that lies ahead of him. So that's a sleep that comes because of the confidence that he has in God. Great confidence, great hope in God. Different from the confidence that Alexander had, which was trust in himself. The blessing of sleep. The blessing of sleep always comes when there's confidence in God's power. And we ourselves can so often get caught up in our world and our worries, the difficulties that we're facing, and maybe at night we're not able to sleep well. Maybe because we have been bored during the day, and so we're looking for something that can kind of excite us at night, and so we spend time watching movies, watching Netflix, just trying to stay up as much as we possibly can until we're exhausted, and then we fall asleep, and maybe our alarm has to get us up in the morning, and then we're just rushing from one thing to the next, and we're never really sleeping in peace. Or maybe we're worried about our future. Whatever it is that takes away our sleep, well, there's not that trust in God that we need that will really give us peace and allow that sleep to renew us. And maybe God even wants to speak to us in our sleep, in our dreams. Now, probably not some mystical dream, the message of an angel, as might have been the case of St. Joseph, but we too are called to that peace, to that renewal through the gift of sleep. And God wants us to rest. God wants us to renew ourselves and to be able to dream, to sleep perhaps to dream, as Shakespeare so eloquently put it in the play of Hamlet. And we see that dream, and this is the case of St. Joseph, that dream becomes a reality. God tells him through a dream that he's supposed to marry Mary, and that happens. He tells him he's supposed to take the Holy Family to Egypt. Eventually he tells him he's supposed to bring everybody back to Nazareth. And so those dreams become reality. And this is something that goes along very well additionally to Joseph's life work. He was a carpenter, right? And a carpenter is somebody who builds things. Well, first he has to dream it. First he has to think it up. How am I going to build this chair? Or how do I want this table to look? and then I take my tools and I build everything, and suddenly my dream has become a reality. I think we can see this as well in our own lives, that God has a dream, He has a wish, a desire for each one of us. And that's the dream that motivates Him, that motivates His heart. And He wants to give that dream to each one of us. And as we're kind of reflecting on the vocation in line with what Pope Francis said for his World Day of Vocations, well, we can think that it's God's dream that becomes reality in our lives. What a special gift. What a great grace that we have in that sense. Now that we're closing things up, I'd like to leave you with a thought. And maybe there's a phrase that can help us, and that can help us be true men as we're trying to live out our own vocations, whatever that might be, whatever God is calling us to. And that's, a man's got to do what a man's got to do, right? It seems like very simple, folksy wisdom, but I think it's something that summarizes very well what Joseph lived, and it's something that can help us as well. That where we want Joseph to really touch our hearts, we want to follow his example, and we want to see in our own lives, well, what is it that I need to do? So often we are kind of buckled down by our own passions, by our own weakness, and we don't find the strength within ourselves to do what God is asking us to do. And a lot of those moments, I think we just have to buckle down and say, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And like St. Joseph, we as well can be building our future. God is dreaming about you and about your life, and He wants you to take the steps necessary to make His dream a reality. That's the joy and the blessing of a vocation. May God bless you, and have a great week.